Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to learn about the 7 C's of communication. Communication is one of the most essential aspects of our life. Now think about it. How often do we communicate? And the means of it. It can be oral or written. Now in our daily life, we usually have to communicate on day-to-day basis. So if we include all of these 7 C's in the communication, it would be way easier for us to convey it. You can also consider it to be a checklist while communicating. Now, the first one, clear. The message should be clear. It should have a clarity. Now, when I'm trying to communicate with someone, there is a particular goal. The goal is to communicate certain message to someone else. That is the receiver and the sender. Now, if I am the one who is conveying, I want to make sure the goal, the purpose of it is clarity, and it needs to be maintained through the message. The message needs to be very clear. Now, the second one is correct. Now, whatever message I'm trying to tell to the other person, the information and the language should be correct. That is nothing but it should be error free. There has to be no error in it. Now, let us take an example. If I'm trying to communicate about today's weather and it is raining outside, and if I say it is cloudy as well as it is sunny, so it would not be a clear information, it would not be a correct information. Whatever you're trying to tell to the other person, the receiver, the message has to be correct. That is nothing but the language of it, how you put it across should be correct. Now, the third one is concrete. The message that you're trying to convey should be solid and specific. Now, when I say concrete, it is nothing but whenever you're trying to communicate, you should give a clear picture to the other person. He should not be confused. When he reads your message, it should be wide and clear. It should be loud and clear, and it should be communicative in such a way that they should not have any queries after it. It should be precise and concrete. Now, the fourth one is concise. Now, the concise is not elaborate. When you're trying to convey any message, it needs to be short and sweet. When you try to elaborate and add things, what happens is the reader has a selective listening. Now, every person in us has selective listening. Selective listening or selective reading is nothing but when we read a paragraph or a page, we have a habit of only selecting certain words and keeping those in our mind and then formulating it. Now, what happens is when the message is elaborate and there are things which are not required, which are not essential, the whole aspect of communication becomes different. That is nothing but now you focus on something else which is not relevant. So, what we have to do is we have to make sure that it is concise, the message is concise and not elaborate. That is how we write the subject of an email also. Now, if you see, subject is nothing but the goal what you want to convey, so it needs to be concise. Now, the next one is complete. The message needs to be complete and relevant. Now, complete, when I say, there has to be one message at the time and it has to be sent in such a way that it is not halfway through. It needs to be in a complete sense. It should not be continued. It should not have a part 2 of it. Everything needs to be explained in part 1 itself. Part 1 itself is nothing but when you're trying to communicate through your end to the other person, it needs to be complete in one go. Next one is, now we have complete, concise, and the next one is coherent. Now, coherent is logical. That means connected to the main points. Whenever we are writing any paragraph, an email, or communicating, we tend to add certain adjectives, certain lines, certain words which can be associated with the main matter. But it should not take away the logicality of it. It should be supportive and the communication should be logical. Now, the next one is courteous. Now, courteous is empathetic and openness. Now, when you're trying to communicate with any person or a group, what you have to do is you have to make sure the other person has her free will to communicate back to you. It should not be rude, it should not be a closed ended communication, it should be in such a way that you're respectful enough, you're empathetic enough, and the other person, if he or she wants to communicate back to you, you're willing to hear them out. Now, these are the 7 C's of communication: clear, correct, concrete, complete, concise, coherent, and courteous. Now, if we follow all the 7 C's of communication, definitely, whether it's a written or a verbal, whether you're considering communicating with a group or an individual, it will be way effective than the normal means of it. Now, when we talk about the communication aspect, always make sure that whatever you're trying to communicate, you yourself are clear about what you are supposed to talk about. Okay, you have to make sure that you follow all the 7 C's of communication. So that's it for the day. Thank you so much.